Welcome back to Goodreads. I'm your host, Jim Hall, and today's a very exciting show. We have author, screenwriter Chris Mosley on today. And Chris is here today to talk about I Ride for Them, a brand new comic book / graphic novel that he's written, and it will be a continuing series. And it's a really fantastic sci-fi story. And Chris, I'm just so happy to have you on the show today. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Chris, let's jump right in. I Ride for Them is a fantastic sci-fi story, and it started off as a short story, and then it's been adapted into a comic book form that will continue. So let's jump right in and tell the folks I Ride for Them what it's about.
Well, I Ride for Them, it's a sci-fi, I like to call it sci-fi action, and like you mentioned, it all stemmed from a short story that was part of a news article, a newspaper, and my collaborator and I, his name is Derek Uskert, he came to me and wanted a story because he was doing a pitch for a presentation for the Mensa group. He just wanted to be creative. He's a really creative person, and he wanted to do a presentation which involved virtual reality, and it all stemmed from, it was in this newspaper here. So the name of that story was called June's World. And it was kind of an off-the-cuff sci-fi story that I came up with. And at the end of the day, we were both like, oh, this is a pretty good story. So I kind of pitched the idea to Derek, maybe we should do a graphic novel or a comic book and see where it goes. And he was on board with that, and that's where I Ride for Them, that's how I was born. It's basically a story that takes place in the year 2052, and childbirth has been banned. So, and I don't know where this idea came from. It's kind of like, I guess you could think of Children of Men. It's a little bit like that.
Soylent Green, children, overpopulation.
Yeah. And I set it in London just for no other reason that I like to do research, and this was an opportunity for me to do research on London. But it set up a kind of a dystopia feel, like how would people feel if they could not just not having children, but to experience the childbirth experience. I mean, I put that in my head, and I was like, man, that would kind of be devastating for a lot of people. So that's kind of the premise of the story, and it takes off from there.
Now, Chris, I know you have a deep background in script writing, television writing, and you have a film and television background. I noticed, talking with authors who have written comics and graphic novels in the past, that the two go hand in hand. Film and comic books, it's almost the storyboard is built in. The storyboard is the comic book. And so how did that affect or influence your storytelling, being a filmmaker, being a writer, being a person that's worked in television for years and years and years? How did this affect your visual eye in writing and how the comic was going to look?
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, I'm blessed to have a TV background, and I also write screenplays. And I Write for Them is the very first comic book I've ever been a part of in terms of the creating aspect of it. And to be quite honest, with the background that I have with screenwriting, when I embarked on writing the comic, it was really, really easy. Because when you're writing screenplays, it's not a novel, so you have to be kind of relentless in cutting things down. Like you mentioned, storyboarding. You have to be really particular of what you want to show. You can't show everything. You can't say everything. So I found it really gratifying that my background helped me out, because you're just sitting there writing, you're seeing it as you're writing it. At least for me, that's what it was like. So it was pretty easy, and it was a lot of fun because I had never done anything like this. So just to be free and whatever I wanted to do, it was a cool feeling.
Now, off camera, we talked a little bit about your collaborators and how it's an interesting situation. Can you talk a little bit about how unique it is, this collaboration, in the sense that it's global?
Yeah, sure. It's Derek, who's my collaborator and co-creator of I Write for Them. He reached out to me on LinkedIn, right? So I didn't have a previous relationship with him. He reached out on LinkedIn and wanted to do the story for the newspaper. So once we established that we wanted to do the comic book, obviously we need artists, right? And I can't draw stick figures, so fortunately Derek is he's an architect, so he's a great artist in that respect. But we definitely needed someone with the experience who has done comic books before. So we went through the process. We had an artist named her name is Giulia Gualazzi from Italy. She actually did the cover. Andrea Bormida, he did all the interiors, and he also did the lettering. And we had Angelo, who did the coloring, and we had an editor as well. But all of them, they're from Italy. So everything is done online. I mean, it's cool because people don't have to live around the corner from you anymore. You can collaborate with whoever you like to. And when we found our artist, it was kind of an audition period. We went through maybe 3 or 4 different artists for the interiors. And Andrea, his style spoke to me because he has a cinematic sensibility, and it kind of matched well with my cinematic sensibility. So it's cool. He's a great artist. Everybody's 100% into it, and it's just a cool overall experience.
Chris, can you tell us a little bit about the story and let us kind of know what people will be experiencing when they read I Write for Them?
Absolutely. It's a sci-fi action story, and it's set in the year 2052, where childbirth has been banned. So people are really freaked out. I mean, there's no way to experience experience childbirth at all due to overpopulation. So the only way for folks to experience childbirth is through this virtual world that was created. And people are vying for this virtual world, and it's something that's needed at the time. Unfortunately, things go awry in the virtual world. So a lot of people, when they speak of AI and virtual reality and the metaverse, it's positive. But with this story, it's not positive. What if AI or the virtual world was a bad thing? And this story explores that through the eyes of the main character. Her name is Joy. And basically, you know what hits the fan when people start vying for power and political reasons and all of that. So yeah, this story takes a pretty drastic approach to protecting what folks value.
Well, this really is a fantastic sci-fi story, and I'm a big sci-fi fan, and I still dabble in reading comics and graphic novels. And what I loved about this is, like you said, it harkens very much to a Children of Men, Soylent Green, a little bit of the Matrix, and the cyberpunk stuff. And I really love the art. Your writing's fantastic. The art is fantastic. And I mentioned to you off camera, without giving too much away so people read the comic and enjoy, but when we're in the real world, we're black and white and more tame hues. And then when we get into the digital or video world where people escape to because of the overpopulation, we're in full color. And I really loved how that was handled. And I absolutely love the story. It's very dynamic, very, it is sci-fi, but it's also action. You know something's going on. And obviously I'm not giving anything away when I say that this is a story that will continue. And issue 2 is already at the printer. But ideally, how long do you see this story going?
Well, right now it's going to be a 4-part series. Once we complete the 4th issue, we'll form all of them together and create the graphic novel. And depending on feedback, who knows? It might go on even longer, because there are stories to be told after this book for sure.
Okay, fantastic. And then you and I, again, we talked a lot off camera, and we discussed that in regards to a comic book or books, you have to get out there and you need to promote them.
Right.
When you're doing a screenplay, you need to do the same thing. But in the comic world, it's very unique because you need to go to pop culture conventions and comic book conventions. And you're actually going to be doing that and touring around the country a little bit. And I know you're heading to California soon. Talk about that aspect of things and how that is a part of the promotion, is getting the word out in the comic book world and actually interacting with fans. And you're going to get to meet people that are going to read it like right there at the convention, come back and tell you, oh, I love this. Talk a little bit about that and that interaction.
Yeah, last year, 2023, October, we did our first comic convention, and that was the New York Comic Con. And the feedback there was great. It was, you know, it was just so many people. It was so extravagant there, the excitement and everything. And just to have our book there and having people pick it up, we had a decent amount of folks who actually did get a copy of it, and the feedback was great. Like you mentioned, this year will be at the LA Comic Con. That's in October of this year, 2024. And yeah, we just want to get the word out. It's not an easy task because we are an independent book. We're not a major publisher. It's kind of a startup independent publisher called Eat and Seek. But we don't have distribution, and that's something that we're seeking. So the goal is to really get people involved and engaged in the story, in the series itself, and hopefully it can get some traction and we can get into some comic book stores and perhaps get some major distribution.
Excellent. Now, I'd be remiss if we didn't let people know how they can actually get a hold of you and get a copy of this, because I think coming forward, we're hopefully introducing you to some comic stores and some different things, so there'll be store appearances and stuff for people to look out for. But people can contact you, get an autographed copy from you, things of that nature. How can people learn more about you and the product?
Yeah, absolutely. eatandseek.com is the website that they can go to get a copy of issue 1, and you can pre-order issue 2 right now. So that is definitely the best way. And also follow us. If you come to the LA convention, we'll be in New York again this year, fortunately. And hopefully we can be in the Motor City Comic Con this year. That would be great. I'd love to get the feel of what some of my local comic fans have to say about the book.
And before I let you go, because of your background in film, we've known each other outside of this for quite a while. Could you possibly see, I certainly see this as a possible film or series now. Is that ideally where you would like to go, or do you have those type of other stories down the road that we could be looking for, that maybe you'll be writing some novels or screenplays in this sci-fi genre?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I embarked on this story, I write like it's a movie, and you just said that. I'm glad you said that. It kind of feels like a movie. Of course, we would love for it to be picked up as a movie or a TV series. That would be like the gold at the end of the rainbow. But other than that, I'm always writing screenplays. I'm working on another one currently. It is a sci-fi. I can't really say too much about it, but yeah. Definitely getting that on the big screen, or even the small screen, would be fantastic. But even if not, I'm still going to continue doing the screenplays, as well as I have a couple more ideas for comic series as well.
So Chris, your publishing company has published more than just I Write for Them. There's some other interesting books out there you'd like people to be aware of. Can you tell me a little bit about those?
Absolutely. Eat and Seek Publishing, it's a small startup publishing company, and it's owned and operated by my collaborator and co-creator, Derek Uskert. But other than I Write for Them, it's really a unique group of books that we have. We have one called Egypt the Cat, which is actually a children's book. It's nothing like I Write for Them. It's solely for children, and it's getting a lot of buzz online right now amongst readers. We have one called Promises, which Derek is the writer of that book. It's a pretty cool book. The artwork is fantastic. And our latest one, This was written by Ted Perkins. It's called Society of Killers. I can't really divulge any info on that. It's kind of top secret, but it is a really unique story that it's pretty wild, and it's more on the darker side, like I Write for Them is.
Okay, and how can people get information about that?
They can get information at eatandseek.com for those books as well.
Okay. So Chris, one more time before we let you go, I absolutely loved I Ride for Them. I really want people to be able to have an opportunity to read this and order future episodes and issues. How can they do that? How can people learn more about the comic and learn more about you?
eatandseek.com. That's EDENSEEK.com. That's where you can get an issue of the current issue, as well as pre-ordering the second issue. And also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn under Chris Mosley. And also give us a follow and check us out on Instagram at I Write for Them Comic Book. That's I Write for Them Comic Book.
Well, excellent. Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time today. With me today was Chris Mosley. We were talking about I Ride for Them. And I really must implore you, contact them and get this comic. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I think you know that I love sci-fi and horror, and this one really knocked it out of the park. It really does have a cinematic movie feel to it. And the first issue kind of ends on a cliffhanger, so I can't wait for the second issue. So Chris, again, thank you so much for being on the show today. And when we get the second issue out, we'll have you back and we'll discuss that.
Oh, great. Thank you for having me. I'd love to come back too.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So that'll wrap it up for this episode of Good Reads. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, you can catch every episode on Good Reads by going to YouTube, selecting Southfield Cable 15, and then just search all the different videos we've done, and you can see the different episodes of Good Reads. Thank you so much for watching.
My name is Joy, but I am not having a good day. I'm having a pretty bad one, actually. The rules, the laws, started a storm that has only worsened, forcing me into a world I wasn't prepared for, daring me to care for a life when I hadn't yet mastered my own. So now I must become the monster, untamed and methodical, eager to do whatever it takes to win a war never before undertaken. Who's with me?